Past couple of days have been a lot of fun because we've just been getting a ton of game announcements. And every now and then, as all these games are getting thrown around, you get one completely out of left field. And it happened today. So I want to take a look at that game as well as go over some of my predictions and also some of the things that are leaking out for Xbox's showcase that'll be happening tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. We got to start with the elephant in the room from today because I did not expect to wake up and then all of a sudden start seeing news come out for a reveal that there's a Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee remaster happening. Yeah, it's been announced for the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series, the Switch 2, and the PC. It's an Unreal Engine 5 remake that's due out November 3rd. This is coming from Atari, the publisher, and Pipeworks is developing this one. And so, if you're unfamiliar, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, that came out back in 2002, and it first came out on the GameCube, and then I think like half a year later or so, it came out on the Xbox. And this was a game that I remember picking up that holiday, so it must have been, I mean, it was before December, obviously, but I remember getting having like Christmas money and birthday money. This was one of the GameCube games that I bought, and I'm glad I did because it completely leaned into the idea of the four-player, like, arena-style fighter with these, big monsters from Godzilla. And even the plot was funny. It's like, oh, aliens brought these big kaiju monsters. They're just gonna drop down your cities, and they're just gonna battle it out. And it's not even like you were just necessarily punching each other as much. You pick up a big skyscraper and just throw it at them or hit them with it. You had all their different unique abilities and powers. It was such an early 2000s game, but it was a blast. I mean, it really was a lot of fun. And this one in particular, they're adding some stuff to it. So we'll have online multiplayer, so which kind of neat because again, back then, not really expected necessarily to have it in 2002 on something like the GameCube. But then we again we leaned into the four-player aspect to it, and that seems like what they'll be doing here with the online play. But they have 12 different kaiju to choose from, 8 locations. There'll be gallery items that you can unlock. They did say, though, that they are going to improve the unlock system. So it gives you choice to, like, which monsters you want to unlock, when, locations, gallery items, just kind of in any order. So I'm kind of interested to see how they've worked that out. And they also mentioned there'll be additional content with single-player campaigns for each kaiju. So each one will have like its own little story set up there with different missions. That again, that could be pretty fun. And even with that in mind, the price point isn't bad. So you think Godzilla licensing all that stuff? Okay, maybe it will be maybe a little more expensive, but it's $30. Or if you want it physically on the Switch 2, it's $40. Okay, so 30 physically on the PS5, 40 physically on the Switch 2. And what that tells me is that it's not a game key card. And if you look at the box art, there's no game key card symbol on it. So I think this is a situation of it's just more expensive for the cartridge, so it's going to cost you $10 more. And actually, you know what? I'd rather spend $10 more personally, get everything on the cartridge, than just spend $30 and get a game key card. Especially for something like this with Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, so random. But I'm glad it exists. It's been stuck on the GameCube and the original Xbox this whole time, and you can emulate it, obviously, but this is also one of those games that is a little sketchy on the emulation side. It has some stuttering, and hey, Unreal Engine 5, we'll see if it really is the true emulation experience there brought up to current platforms, but it is just always a more difficult game, I'd say, to emulate. Even in Dolphin, you need some pretty decent hardware to keep it from dropping frame rate and stuff. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm picking it up day one. Also, I like the confidence there. So many companies are trying to avoid November. Here comes Godzilla is like, nah, we're same month as GTA 6. No big deal. And you know what? I thought about this with GTA 6 coming out like the third week, like so a couple weeks into November. There's at least a 10-day window where many of these companies may try to avoid that. Honestly, if you're willing to do it, you could probably slot your game in there at the first half of November, and it'd be kind of quiet there as everyone's building up for GTA 6. Not a bad spot right now, at least right now. We'll see if any other companies have the same idea. What a fun announcement, though. Now let's shift over to the Xbox showcase that'll be happening tomorrow. And I'm quite interested to see how this is going to work out because I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward in some of the big banner games that they'll be showcasing here. I think they'll have some surprises, all right, which I'll go over some of my predictions and a few things that I think are kind of leaking out right now. But obviously, just based on the what they've told us, Gears of War E-Day is like their big like banner game right now, as they're going to have an entire section after the event to go over what I would figure gameplay, multiplayer, story setup, and we'll have a release date because it looks like Microsoft is setting this up right now. Like we've already seen a lot about Halo as that was shown at the end of last year. So it seems like that's set up to launch before Gears of War E-Day, which I figure is set up to launch before Call of Duty, as that's set up to launch before Grand Theft Auto 6. So it seems like they've kind of worked out their release cadence here, and that's kind of the order I'm expecting. So Halo, Gear, well technically Forza, right? Forza, Halo, Gears, the tent poles for Microsoft, and then Call of Duty, which is like one of their newer tent poles. And then they'll rely on GTA 6 from a third party perspective to, yeah, I guess sell Xbox systems, but also bring in a bunch of like just revenue from their cut on the Xbox storefront. Okay, so with that in mind, Gears of War E-Day, big showing here. Should be awesome. I'm looking forward to see the multiplayer mostly, but the coalition certainly doesn't disappoint when it comes to the visual side. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, I mean, it's why wouldn't they show more Call of Duty? It seems like right now have shifted their focus back to being similar to what Battlefield's done in that they want it to be a more serious take on Call of Duty. We've just seen them go off the wall and wacky when it comes to the collaborations they've done with multiplayer. So I do welcome this sort of approach. Fable, that should be here. Gameplay update. They already told us, hey, it's not coming out this year, February 2027, and I think it's making more and more sense as we go because it's just there's a lot coming out, you know, in the second half of this year for Microsoft, all right? Clockwork Revolution. I'd like to see more about that game in terms of like the gameplay side or just some of the mechanics for this game. It's from inXile. Kind of remind me a bit of BioShock Infinite, although that might just be kind of the steampunk look to it. State of Decay 3, maybe a release window on it or just showing it off in general. Blade. I feel like people have kind of forgotten about this one. So it's been a few years now that Blade was announced, and I think this is a great spot to show it. We see, of course, these Marvel games, a lot of them on the side of Sony, but Blade, I think, could be really interesting from the perspective of an action game, but also just to see something a little different than what we've come to expect with Spider-Man and even Wolverine kind of still looking like that very close over-the-shoulder third-person action game. Although I guess that's kind of what Blade would be. We're at least thinking that's what it's going to look like, but who knows? Kojima with OD. I'm still trying to figure out what that game is. He's tried explaining it. Still is kind of hard to picture in my mind, so you feel like that's, I assume, got to be getting close to coming out. Minecraft Dungeons 2, that should be here and should be slated for release again, I assume, somewhat soon. Doom the Dark Ages, I put this down because we see Microsoft moving more and more of their games to the Switch too. I think Indiana Jones was pretty impressive for the platform, so I'll be curious to see if they are able to get Doom the Dark Ages on the system as well, up to a certain level of performance, because Doom is very fast, and I know they've moved previous Doom games to the first Switch, and they just cut the frame rate in half to 30. I'm kind of interested to see if they have to do something similar here, since that game relies heavily on ray tracing. Some surprise reveals here. Persona 4 Revival, we've seen it rated. Seems like it's set up here. The other one, though, Persona 6. Okay, so I figured what they would do. Persona 4 Revival. And then they go in and it's like, oh yeah, kind of their own, Atlas's own one more thing. Here's Persona 6. It's already been leaking out all over the place. They're like images from concept art that got struck down by Atlas. Atlas right now, by the way, is dealing with, they call like impersonator accounts, who's doing things like making up like artwork for Metaphor going to these different platforms and like a new version of it. So Atlas, over the last week, they've continuously reminded people that there are just impersonator accounts out there and not to follow them or pay attention. But the Persona 6 stuff, they did some copyright strikes on it, and it seems like that's probably what we're going to see here. But Persona fans, We'll be very excited to see this. It's been a long time. Persona 5 is a PlayStation 3 game as well, by the way. So it's been a bit. It'd be nice to see the next one. There's also been a lot of talk about this Fallout 3 remaster, remake kind of game. Apparently, it's going to be a similar treatment to what we saw with Oblivion Remastered, where they kind of overlay like a newer engine on top of the older one. And Fallout 3 is an awesome game. It's crunchy right now. It could use some of that help. I mean, if you look back on it on the Xbox 360, it was super impressive then, and it's still pretty cool to be able to play it on the Xbox Series through backwards compatibility, as they have a lot of extra features with frame rate boost and stuff trying to help it out. But you can still tell it's an old game. So I think just based on like the lineage of that game, nostalgia attached to it, seeing it here with the remaster treatment would be awesome. And I just think it'd be fun to see something Fallout pop up, since man, Fallout 5, it's going to be a bit for that one. So getting like a fresh coat of paint on Fallout 3 with a new release, I think would be a lot of fun. And then here's the thing, okay? So I know people out there, Spyro fans, have been waiting. They've been patient. I kind of think this might finally be it for them. This might be their show, because there's already word going around, rumors. One person just detailing information on the next Spyro game. This kind of feels like it's it. This is where you're going to see the new Spyro game. I saw one report mentioning it could have some RPG elements to it. I'm curious how the Spyro fan base feels about that. But the word is that Toys for Bob was working on it. They did have a contract with Microsoft on something. So even though what happened was they kind of bought their independence and spun off of Microsoft, which is good because it's better than them being shut down. But while that was happening, they still had a contract with Microsoft to work on a game. So a lot of people are figuring it's this new Spyro game, and makes sense. That's what you feel like Toys for Bob would be doing. Well, either Spyro or Banjo. And hey, we got Crash Bandicoot 4. That came out after the Insane trilogy. So it sort of makes sense the next one would be a new Spyro game coming out after the Reignited trilogy. So I think that'll be pretty cool to see that as just something thrown in there, a nice surprise for all the Spyro fans out there. You know, I do wonder if, while we were talking about Atlas, of course, part of Sega with Persona, that Crazy Taxi tease is still out there. And it feels like we have two more shows that they would appear at with, and I mean Xbox with their show, and then maybe that Direct. So it's kind of, I guess you could flip a coin here. It's either the Direct or this Xbox show. So I'll just throw Crazy Taxi out there for fun. And I still would like to think that Square Enix will be here in some capacity. That could legitimately just be them showing back up with Final Fantasy VII Revelation Part 3. And that's fine, as they're going to want to make the rounds a lot for that game for the next 8 months as they work towards its release. Wouldn't it be nice to see Kingdom Hearts 4? I know. If there's one fan base that has been patient, it's kind of the Kingdom Hearts fans, after seeing that game years ago now, and then watching this Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy play out, while you're still sitting there going, okay, Kingdom Hearts 4 will show up eventually, and it still just hasn't. Would Microsoft work with Square to get that revealed now? I don't know. It feels like that might overshadow what happened here with Final Fantasy VII Revelation, that just getting announced at Summer Game Fest. I feel like you could still kind of run them alongside of each other, but that would just be nice, again, for the Kingdom Hearts fans out there that have been very patient and waiting and waiting and waiting. But something tells me you're probably going to be waiting for quite a bit longer. But those are just some of my thoughts for the Xbox showcase happening tomorrow. I think it'll be a lot of fun, but Microsoft also has a lot of studios that can legitimately surprise, because at times it seems like Microsoft just kind of lets them make whatever, and that's how you end up with games like Kiln or whatever. It might not light the world on fire, but it can be genuinely creative and very different from what you'd expect. So I'm hoping maybe we see a game like that, just something very random and off the wall. But let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments, whether it's Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee getting a remaster, or any of your own predictions heading into that Xbox showcase. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.